Welcome back to Watch the Obsession. This video has a lot to do with certain, I think the most interesting parts of a conversation I had with Daniel from the channel The DT Show just the other day when we were talking about the IDAHO4 case, Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger, as it relates to the recently released 911 call and other information that's recently been unsealed or released from the court, and also information that each of us has from people who were very, very close to this horrible tragedy and to one or all of the victims from sources we've developed relationships with. I selected these specific excerpts because they are truth, facts, and sometimes even a good discussion that you can hear about and learn some information from, maybe from reliable sources. Truth. I think that the information we had to discuss, again, was very interesting, and there's a lot of talk out there on the streets of YouTube and elsewhere about this case. There always has been since this tragedy happened, and there is now, and maybe even particularly now, and not all of it is truth. So maybe we'll just have some fun comparing truth to BS. But hey, listen, we're not going to have too much fun because at the end of the day, this is a horrific case, and justice for these victims, these poor souls and their family members, and for all citizens of the free world is really, really important. Let's keep our focus there. So I just want people to understand that the details about the 911 call, just like everything else, basically, what the Goncalveses have talked about and, told Daniel or said otherwise, as the evidence is now coming out, it's all spot on.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. That was, it kind of tells everybody that, hey, you actually are talking to who you say you're talking to.
Right. And that is an accurate point that Daniel made, as he often does. It does tell everybody that who I've been saying was talking to and am talking to, it's been those people, just like I've explained it all along. But for me, the driving reason to go back over this information as new information comes out is to reinforce the truth and the importance of truth and the importance of seeking the truth and being able to decipher between truth and
uncredible, or how do I say this? Not credible.
That's right, bro. It would be not credible sources and information.
And you know what? I don't want to hear it. These girls are not victims, okay? For you to be a victim, something has to happen to you.
Oh, yeah. And we should especially be on the lookout for incredible or uncredible or not credible information and sources, particularly from people who are just assholes and are also just factually incorrect and don't really seem to care about others. Of course, these girls were victims. Something happened to them, obviously. If you woke up in your home and for the people who you were hanging out with the day before, who you're friends with, who you're close with, 3 of them who you live with, were dead in your home, and you were among the first mortal souls to learn about it and had to make the call to 911 and witness the emergency response and the horror that you would see in the faces and the desperate activity of the first responders, the trauma and fear you'd hear in their voices and cries. And oh, by the way, you're all at that very moment just realizing you too almost lost your life just hours ago. Would you consider that something had actually happened to you? Huh? Would ya? Smart people?
Something had to have been attempted on you.
But people like this just change the definition as they go along. It's kind of a narcissistic trait. Something had to have happened to you, had to have been, attempted on you. Oh, okay. Where do you find that in the definition of victim?
Did that happen in this case? No, it looks like the intruder looked right at her, gave her a wink and a wave, and said, have a good night, Dylan. You take care now.
Well, he certainly didn't speak. He didn't speak to her.
And she was rather shocked about that.
I know. I thought that was weird too.
Why did you not say anything to me? You just killed all my friends and you ignore me, you bastard. I hate you.
Yeah, I know. I bet you're all as disgusted by that as I am. And so you don't have to, search around and find things like that they're going to end up watching. Nope, because who the hell wants that? Here are some good facts, some interesting information, and above all, the truth.
Now, the 911 call comes out. I've heard it. You've heard it. There's some pausing there. There's a part there where you hear some heavy breathing. I hear somebody in the background. I'm assuming it's Hunter Johnson saying, "Xana, Ethan, it's me." And there's a loud screech noise, and then get out, get out, get out. But there's a pause there. From what I understand, I didn't catch it, but I had a lot of my viewers tell me to watch it. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather ask you about it than watch it. Did they have some sort of insight about what was going on during that time?
He was throwing up. That's what they said. That this is a story that I heard. And one thing, as I was explaining to you before, Ethan was found on the bed, and I know that to be a fact. That is a fact that's going to come out in trial, and it's a fact that is, I kind of hate to even bring up because it's kind of like morbid, like where the bodies were found. But because there's so many questions, it's all to the fact of the matter and to what happened, though. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, it was Ethan on the floor, and that's what was blocking the door," and then from there, can spiral a whole bunch of crazy theories involving clowns and ladders and, designer DRUGS and mafias and cartels and, the U.S., armed forces. It's just so crazy. But he was found in the bed, and that is a fact. So Hunter went in, Emily stayed outside. So that whole time when you hear Emily come on the phone and then you don't hear Hunter, he went in there. He saw something horrible, and it was Xana. He went into a state of shock. He got sick. He started to pass, that feeling of like you're about to lose conscious and just trying to hang on. He either didn't see Ethan or didn't see much of him, but he got a very good view of Xana. So that caused him to go into a state of shock. He had to gather himself, and that's what the pause is. And then I think the screech is either a scream, or I actually think it's heaving, up.
Yeah.
And then get out, get out, get out. And that's exactly what what they have said all along. I mean, since the very beginning.
Right. Now, so I spoke with Kristi, and Kristi had told me, and this is where I think our stories kind of maybe differ in a little bit. Now I do know,
I think, yeah.
Right. Now I do know that Stacy Chapin, I believe, this has come over through she had an interview somewhere and has clarified that Ethan was in the bed. I can't verify that 100% because I haven't seen that interview myself.
It's not. There's no interview.
But that's what I had.
But he wasn't. The Chapin family knows. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if it was like a Crime Con interview or if it was something else. Or somebody talking, but that's what I had heard as well. Now, when I spoke with Kristi, because I have no connection to the Chapin family whatsoever. I've never spoken with anybody who knows them either.
I've never spoken with anyone in the Goncalves family.
Correct. Well, I wouldn't know. But so for me, I have. And when I spoke with Kristi, what she had told me was that Hunter had told her husband specifically that during the celebration of life, that he was the person that found the scene, that he was contacted to go over, that something had happened. And he went up there and he had a struggle getting into the door. Is that part accurate? Have you heard that there was an obstacle to get into the room?
This is where I think the misconception might be. I think that because you're hearing, Steve's hearing, whoever's hearing, he had trouble getting into the door, getting the door open, getting into the room. You're thinking he had trouble physically opening the door. What I think really happened, in line with what the Sekai guys told me all along, is he didn't have physical trouble because the door was jammed. He had trouble because he was starting to pass out of shock and he was throwing up. He had trouble getting any further into the house to investigate further, to actually get a good, assessment of, is Ethan doing okay? Is anyone else in here harmed? He couldn't do it. He had to leave. Like when he gets on the phone, or when he gets on the phone briefly with the 911 dispatcher, And then he says, you don't hear anyone else say anything, but then he, there's kind of a pause. Dylan, Bethany, you have to talk to them. I cannot talk to them. One of you needs to talk to them. He was in absolute shock. He had just like thrown up. He just saw.
No, I've enhanced it. I can hear somebody.
Difficulty about opening a door. He couldn't go any further because
Right.
he couldn't, because of the state he was in. Not that literally the door couldn't open. That's just
there's
my
two things there.
where that may be.
Right. Two things. The second one, most lastly, when he says you have to talk to them, I can hear an officer or somebody say something and he says, "That's me." And then he goes, "Here, you have to talk to him." My assumption is the officer arrived there and said, who made entry into this house? And he said, "That's me." And then that's why he's handing the phone over to Bethany, because he has to go talk to the officer.
Oh, okay.
Now,
I see.
As far as the other part, my thing is like, if the door isn't closed, right now, I've spoken with Howard Bloom, who's spoken to officers that have been in there, and one of the things that he had mentioned was that it was reported that the scenes were contained to the bedrooms. There's not a lot of blood going from one room to the other. Everything was contained into the bedrooms. Did you get a sense of that from the Sigma Chi folks, that was also the case, that it wasn't apparent from just walking around that that's what had occurred?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The only thing that is not clear to me, and again, this is a question I think they're probably watching right now. So now that I'm asking this question, I'm sorry. I hope you guys don't feel distasteful. If you know and you would feel so inclined to answer, clarification might be good. But the only thing that's not clear to me is, was Anna like completely in her own bedroom, or was she partially in the hall? From what it sounds to me, she must have been it sounds to me like she had just been coming out of her bedroom. And so, Hunter, who just saw what he saw, went further than like Bethany and Dylan would have, because that's exactly what I learned as well. It's not like there was any, anything that was in disarray more than that house normally was, being a college party house, or like there was blood, or there was any sign of an excessive struggle, broken windows, or like, shit knocked all over the place. Yeah. So that's in line with what I learned as well. I'm just not clear if Santa was partly not fully inside her bedroom.
See, that's one of the things that Kristi may have mentioned as well. So that Kristi said that that's what she was told, or that's what Hunter told Steve, that he had trouble getting through the door, and she used the term, the door was blocked, and that Ethan was there, but that he had struggled getting through the door, and that once he finally did and he saw what he saw, he turned around and told the girls, get out, and they exited. But then she also told me
Anna partially blocking the door, because Ethan was not. He was definitely
right.
But it might make sense that Xana was there. And if you think of, even though she was like a petite little girl, it's like, if there was, let's say she weighs 125, 30 pounds, I would imagine. If there's like a 125, 30 pound weight sitting right in front of a door, I don't know if I could open it, but it would be quite a challenge.
It'd be difficult,
for a girl, yeah.
And so, I thought that made sense. And then when you hear, Xana, Ethan, it's me, normally somebody's saying that when they're announcing themselves, trying to go into a private area, whether that be the bathroom or the bedroom, something to that nature, not necessarily if you're looking at someone.
That makes
or
sense.
that you can see
that main entry of the house, be like, hey, Xana, Ethan, it's me. That makes good sense. That's insightful.
So I just think that, to me, I feel like there's probably something blocking the door. Not necessarily blocking. Let me rephrase that. There's something obstructing the visual of the actual scene. It could be just nearly the door being closed. It doesn't have to be that there's something blocking it, but that they can't see what actually happened in that moment until he says, get out, get out, get out. I think that is the moment when he sees what is happening.
Yes.
I
actually think he sees it. I think he sees it a little before that, and then he's hit with shock. He gets sick. He starts to like you like have that feeling, oh my God, I'm going to pass out. And then he finally can speak. I don't know if anyone's had that experience before where you have been so horrified or, you know, some severe stress, trauma has happened. And then you finally can speak again, like your senses come back, your voice comes back. I feel like that's what happened. And I don't know if those are big differences, but that's just like how it plays out in my mind based on what I've heard.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think that that's highly plausible. You know, there's a moment there where it sounds like he yells Xana, you know?
Yeah, I think I hear that too. I do. Mm-hmm.
You know, it sounds like it. I have an enhanced audio here. We'll go through it a little bit.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think there's a moment where he yells out Xana, and that may be the moment when he sees the gravity of things, you know, when he's able to get into that room and actually see what the outcome is.
Yeah.
You know, it is exactly as you described it so long ago. It is a bunch of kids finding out and figuring out what is going on to that point. You know, it's going to be difficult having to relive that, especially for Hunter, you know, going through trial and
can't even
explaining
imagine
what he saw. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Bethany, I honestly, truly do not think she heard anything very much. You know, documents have concluded that the only person that had seen the intruder was Dylan. So that means that this whole naked thing that people are claiming that Bethany saw is not true. That's also another false rumor. Did you hear that by any chance? Was that ever something?
Well, I did. I don't know if you, I feel like maybe we talked about this, but the story that I heard, okay, so this is what they told me. Like, we had to talk to attorneys if I was even going to talk about this. I know that those texts between Dylan and Bethany came out, and I believe that's just part of them because those are the ones that the defense does not want to go to trial under hearsay, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what I was told. Dylan saw this figure, as she describes it, right, inside the house, okay? It's sometime right around then, moments shortly after Dylan sees that, Bethany's on the first floor, you know, facing out towards that parking area, right? She sees out her window somebody coming down the more open side of the house. You know what I mean? The more open side of the house where there, you know, I don't know, where there's more space. I've like documented, see someone like coming down there and then, you know.
Where the ladder was?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Perfect. Like he was coming from around the back sliding glass door area, right?
Okay.
And then see them coming around the house and then, you know, cutting essentially through, like diagonally transversing through, you know, that parking area, walking, you know, across the parking area and like down, like down, I'm talking about the hill, rather than, you know, a lot of people, you know, believe that he had parked up in that cul-de-sac area. I do not believe that based on what I learned from these guys. I think he parked down in the other direction completely, actually, because, you know, they feel very strongly that they, now again, they have talked to Dylan, they've talked to Hunter, they've talked to Emily, they've talked to all those people who were involved in that 911 call. You know, they've talked to all the victims' families. Neither of them, and as far as they know, nobody has talked to Bethany. So they're telling me this is what they're saying is this is common knowledge in the university community among students and among students, particularly who are close friends with the victims who actually know what's going on. But with that being said, they all say none of them have talked to Bethany. She just left and she just doesn't look back. You know, we can understand why. I'm sure that's what they say. But that people know that it is known that this is what she saw. So Bethany seeing this outside her window, being on that first floor, this person clad in black, I don't think she was all that alarmed. I don't know if she may or may not have been alarmed. This is unclear. What made her alarmed is her looking at this and then Dylan calling, going, oh my God, somebody in the house. And she's like, you know, this is what they're wearing. And either as Dylan is describing this, or if Dylan is describing this person matching the exact same description from Bethany's perspective, except she just sees the side and back of him instead of like his face. She wouldn't have seen his eyebrows because of the angle he was walking at, right? Bethany is seeing or had just seen this same person is thinking, why is this person, walking like on our property, like so close to, like my bedroom window at this hour of the night? People be walking around at all hours of the night. It's college party town, it's a party house. But she felt like that person was really close to the house. Like it was weird. It did alarm her. But then Dylan calling, then she was like, holy fuck, oh my God. Then they started to really freak out. And the contents of their text messages is them comforting one another and trying to de-escalate one another from being in a state of panic and freaking out, which is why I believe they didn't end up calling 911, because they called each other to console each other and calm each other down. They accomplished that and they went to sleep. And I think it's just like that.
Information to come. All right, guys, so as you all know, there is so much more information to come, both from official sources and court documents, and also, people who know much more than the average person does about what happened that night. And this, What's the Obsession, is a source for facts and truth on this case. And my boy Daniel at DT Show ain't doing so bad himself, right? So the choice is yours. You can get the facts, good discussion, and the truth, or you can watch crap like this.
You take care now.
Well, he certainly didn't speak. He didn't speak to her.
And she was rather shocked about
that.
I know.
I thought that was weird too.
Why did you not say anything to me? You just killed all my friends and you ignore me, you bastard. I hate you. That's exactly the way it sounds like. She was shocked that he looked at her and was close enough and didn't say anything to her. Make that make sense, y'all.
I mean, for her to say that, that's just odd.
That should tell you right then and there what her mind frame is at that time, or just in general. Who the hell thinks that way, and who the hell says that?
I mean, you put yourself in that situation. You're scared out of your right, according to all these.
That makes sense.
You got some guy staring at you, and you mention, oh, and he didn't even talk to me. Really? Okay.
So this really hot fireman was in my house at 4 a.m, and he didn't talk to me, and I'm super pissed.
So I just went to sleep and dreamt about it.
I just said, fuck it, I'll call Bethany and run down to her, and let's go to sleep and cuddle each other, because I'm just pissed.
Unfreaking believable. Please leave a comment below. We all want to know what you think, and thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and we pray, hope, and are helping to work for justice for the victims, their family members, and for all of us. Thank you so much for caring.